Yo, what's going on, guys? And today we'll be discussing a report coming from my colleague Michael Scotto. Right there, I just burped. But Michael Scotto reports that Jonathan Kuminga has interest from both the Miami Heat and the Chicago Bulls. The way the report reads, link is in the description. So if you guys want to hear it or read it, go click that. While you're there, comment if you're a Warriors fan, who would you rather sign and trade Jonathan Kuminga? As my assumption, if it's Jonathan Kuminga sign and trade, probably a 3-year deal because it has to be a minimum of 3 years. And the way it reads is that Nikola Vucevic would be their preferred target. You sign and trade Kuminga, and you probably attach in a separate, because you can do a sign and trade and then do a non-simultaneous transaction, which is how they sometimes do sign and trades, package with multiple players and assets, is by doing a non-simultaneous transaction, creating a trade exception, and then doing a separate trade where that trade exception and a player or an asset is then sent to the Bulls for Vucevic, who's making $20 million. So if you were to say, oh, sign and trade Jonathan Kuminga for $20 million, they can only take back $10 million or create a trade exception of $10 million, which then would be possible. And right there, Jonathan Kuminga's time with the Warriors might be winding down. He'll hit restricted free agency this summer, and his long-term future in Golden State is murky at best. As a result, there's been tension bubbling under the surface. His role took a hit after the Warriors acquired Jimmy Butler. Add in a lukewarm relationship, could not speak right there, relationship with Steve Kerr, and the fact that Jonathan Kuminga was dangled in Kevin Durant talks before that deal fell apart at the deadline. And it's no surprise, come around the league believe he's due for a change of scenery. Kuminga, who will be 23 in October, wants more. Specifically, he's looking for a bigger, consistent role. According to league sources who spoke with Michael Scotto of HoopsHype, he's shown flashes of real upside, athleticism, slashing, defensive tools, but he needs the opportunity to put it all together to fulfill the all-star potential that some people believe hasn't been fully tapped. And two teams to keep tabs on, according to Michael Scotto, the Chicago Bulls and the Miami Heat. Both have emerged as a sign and trade candidates if the Warriors open the door, per sources that told HoopsHype. Golden State has not completely ruled out bringing him back, but the front office remains in win now mode. And I've said this before, if he is brought back, it's more than likely on the qualifying offer, which then he would be an unrestricted free agent next year, or he would technically, it's not a no trade clause, but he would have to approve of any trade made during the season if he signs the qualifying offer. And that's the only way I really see him coming back here, because I doubt they would sign into anything more than the mid-level exception. So both of those teams, as we mentioned, sign in trades. And this is something that, if you go back to this past season, the Warriors looked into Bulls center Nikola Vucevic, who's heading into the final year of his deal, $21.48 million. Vuc's reliability, stretching the floor, he's a 40% three-point shooter, and he's a double-digit rebounder, fits what Golden State's trying to maximize, while Steph Curry's window's still open with Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler, and seemingly Brandon Podziemski and others. For Chicago, this makes a ton of sense. They've pivoted toward a younger core, and Jonathan Kuminga, if he's making $20 million, fits their timeline and use of cap space far better than the soon-to-be 35-year-old Vucevic. For Vuce, a contending team like the Warriors would be an ideal landing spot to chase wins in the twilight of his career. Draymond Green, Kevon Looney, and Trace Jackson Davis would all be guys who could play alongside Vuce, or that Vuce could be, alleviating for. And the thing I've said before is that Nikola Vucevic could be either their starting center or a six-man of the year candidate for them, as he could come off the bench and be just green light, score for them and help rebound. Kind of like a super OP version of Bobby Portis, what Bobby Portis has done for the Bucks the last several years. As for Miami, Jonathan Kuminga is not their top priority. Giannis and Kevin Durant are, But if those swing for the fences moves don't pan out, Kuminga is viewed as a fallback target who could thrive in Heat culture. The Warriors are at a fork in the road with Kuminga, whether he's part of the future or a chip to help win now. That'll be an interesting part to see how it could all come to be. As let's say the Vooch deal falls apart, or Vooch somehow gets sent to, the Denver Nuggets to be the sixth man for the Nuggets while also being Nikola Jokic's backup. And now the Warriors and the Heat start talking because Kevin Durant, let's say, gets traded to like San Antonio or the Clippers or somewhere else. So then you look at that scenario and you start to think, how could that be put together package-wise? And I think the most interesting way you could look at it is by thinking, all right, would the combination of like Jaime Jaquez, and I wonder if Duncan would be somebody that they would even consider. It does become a little bit difficult to imagine how that deal will come to be, because I would want to keep Khalil Ware, obviously Bam Adebayo. So when Kyle Anderson was just traded, I'm pretty sure you can't trade Kyle Anderson or Wiggins back there. So to me, it becomes very interesting how this deal would be approached, as it would be $20 million more than likely in salary. And that's where I think it'd have to be a Duncan Robinson, unless Terry Rozier would be traded somewhere else. Let's say a Brooklyn attached with a draft pick, and then Vooch would be sent to Mr. Jonathan Kuminga goes to the Heat, and maybe the Nets send like a Cam Johnson or a combination of cheap salaries just to create cap flexibility for the Warriors. But yeah, because that's the whole thing with me, is if you look at this, unless it's like Haywood Highsmith and Jaime Jaquez, I just find it rather hard for them to be able to bring over somebody like a Kuminga. And like Kuminga, again, like I said, it's got to be like Duncan Robinson or Terry Rozier is the main contract filler, unless Wiggins is going somewhere else. Like, this would have to be part of a bigger deal, because the Heat don't really have any assets that I think the Warriors would be interested in. And that's how, like, I think the complexity of this deal, at least from the Heat standpoint, would have to be that it's a part of a bigger deal. And that's how they land Kuminga. Because again, they can only send back $10 million in salary. They don't really have anything that's worth sending back. So to me, that's where it all becomes rather difficult to figure out what you're going to do and why. Because, as I just said, it's a difficult package to put together when you don't have the best assets to offer. So that's where I'm at with this one. What are your thoughts?